Welcome, everyone. We are so excited to join with you today. Welcome to the Early Childhood Summer Series. This is actually session 1, and it's all about talking with babies and how that actually supports brain development. And we will dive into some strategies about that here shortly. But before we jump in, we want to introduce ourselves, right? And so I'll start. I am Crystal Grimes. I serve as a Birth to Five facilitator for the Rollins Center for Language and Literacy. I am hailing from Georgia, and more specifically, Stockbridge, Georgia. And I am going to toss the virtual ball to Alicia. Can you introduce yourself for us, Alicia?
Thank you, Crystal. Hello, everyone. I'm so happy to be here. My name is Alicia Grace. I am also a Birth to Five facilitator with the Rollins Center for Language and Literacy, and I am in Marietta, Georgia. So very close to Atlanta, about 30 minutes outside, but super excited to be here. And I'm going to pass it over to our other co-host, Christina.
Hello, everyone. I am so excited to see you here. I am Christina Mendonca, and I am also a Birth to Five facilitator for the Rollins Center, and I hail from Atlanta, Georgia.
That is so awesome. And so guess what? Like we said, this is session 1, but we have more sessions, everybody. So we want you all to tune back in, register again for our session on August the 18th, where we will dive into strategies about meaningful conversations and what that looks like, what it feels like for our children. And then on August 25th, don't miss it. It's all about supporting dual language learners. We are so excited, right? So with that being said, too, we want to invite you to visit us on Cox Campus. You will be able to find not only today's session, but the other sessions as well on the Cox Campus website. We are also able to find courses, resources, and just a community of people just like yourselves that you can interact with, learn with. It's so exciting, so fun, and it's absolutely my favorite, which is free. So we want to encourage you to sign up for that. It's free due to the support of the James M. Cox Foundation. And we encourage you to please jump on Cox Campus. It's coxcampus.org. Somebody can drop that in the chat for us. Again, coxcampus.org. We're so excited about this engaging platform. And we would love for us to zoom into a quick video to tell us more about Cox Campus. So let's take a look.
Really, the goal of the Rollins Center is to reach families, to reach teachers and students who have had generational lack of access to the science to ensure that they are getting quality language and literacy experiences. And so this comes in a variety of ways. One of the ways that we do this, as you know, is our online vehicle, the Cox Campus. So the Cox Campus is free and accessible all around the country thanks to our generous funders at the Cox Foundation.
Given our mission of educational equity from the start, and our work beyond the school through our Rollins Center for Language and Literacy and its free online Cox Campus, our work is to break the cycle of illiteracy for children whose families have experienced generational lack of access or denied access to educational opportunity. Said another way, since we know exactly what to do to eradicate illiteracy, we want to be part of a movement to make that happen and to happen now.
Also important to note is the expansion of the Rollins Center and Cox Campus beyond Atlanta. And so really the online vehicle, Cox Campus, helps us reach other states, other countries even. And so we've been really blessed to be able to provide practical application of the science to families and teachers all over.
Awesome. And so as we jump into our goals for today, we want to make sure that we are discussing the importance of language in early brain development and early literacy skills. We want to understand the key elements of responsive interactions. That's a new term, right? And we'll dive into what that looks like and what it means. And then we also want to recognize the baby's attempts to communicate and then respond to them in an age-appropriate way. So that's our goals. We've kind of set the framework for why we are here today. And here comes the fun part. We want to know who you are. So please take a moment, share in the chat, drop your name, share where you're from, maybe the age of the children that you teach or work with, and then maybe one thing you enjoy doing in the classroom. So I'll say it again. I know it's on the screen. I'll just say it aloud. Your name, where you're from, the age of the children you teach or work with, and one thing you enjoy doing in the classroom. And we'll look for those responses. Love it, love it. Welcome. Krista Payne from Georgia, infants snuggling with the babies. Absolutely, we love it. Hey, Debbie, great to have you here. It's so exciting. I don't know about you, Alicia and Christina, like I love them all the way up. Like they said, I see a lot of people representing the babies in the chat, infants, toddlers.
Yes,
I love preschool. They are telling us all about their day, right?
Yes.
They're forming more words as they grow older. I love it. Just absolutely love it. Oh, hailing from Savannah, Georgia, Alabama, Oregon. Yes, absolutely. Hey, Becky, good to have you. So good to see everybody. Hey, Cindy. Love it. Anything art. I'm with you, Cindy. I love your gift. We see you. Welcome, Jennifer.
And those people that are just now entering the Zoom room, welcome. We are sharing a little bit about ourselves, introducing ourselves today. So if you feel led to, please include your introduction in the chat. We would love to get to know you a bit more.
Absolutely. Absolutely. This is so exciting to have you here and to share and learn from each other today. This is very interactive. It's not just your typical webinar where you can just turn it off and go away. We want to interact with you. We want to have a little fun and learn at the same time. So thank you for sharing. And so as we receive a few more comments in the chat, Alicia, can you walk us through what the data tells us? Walk us through why this work is so important, please.
Absolutely, absolutely. As educators, we love data. So this is a great opportunity for us to look at some data. And I know you might be thinking, wait a minute, I see 4th grade, 8th grade, 12th grade, but I teach infants or I teach toddlers. How does this relate to me? But you are where learning starts. Learning starts in your very classrooms, the classrooms that you support each and every day. And so just looking at the data we see from 2015, 2017, and 2019, unfortunately, we don't have a very high percentage of students that are reading proficiently over the years. And when it comes to our national reading data, only about 36% of 4th graders are reading proficiently by the time they get to 4th grade. And that can be very discouraging, especially when thinking about how these students will grow up and how they will be a part of society and how important language and literacy is to just the overall development of their being. And so today we're definitely going to talk a lot about where that starts, where that language and literacy development starts, and how you can play a pivotal role in ensuring that those numbers definitely change over the next couple of years. So we can definitely go on to the next slide. And so this next slide, we really want to just highlight the optimal deep reading brain construction. At Rollins, we love talking about the deep reading brain and what that means. And overall, you see that star in the third trimester to 5 years. That really capitalizes what we talk about in the birth through 5 space as birth through 5 facilitators. So we are really working with the preparing phase of the deep reading brain. And so you might be wondering, what happens during this phase? Well, that's a great question. As some of you might know, infants are able to hear as early as the third trimester in the womb. So that is when they are first starting to collect all of that great language nutrition, language and literacy practices that they hear their parents or their guardians or caregivers giving out. They're able to hear their family speak around them. They're able to analyze and evaluate the things they hear. They're able to take in those phonemes and other enriching language. They're also able to take in robust vocabulary. So even thinking about the words that you're using and the types of words that you're using, they're able to hear those robust vocabulary words, and they're connecting those neurons and those pathways. You're able to talk, sing, read, play with babies in this age group. This is all so imperative and so important, especially when we're talking about the social emotional side of the brain and really making sure that the infant feels loved, warm, taken care of, because we know those basic functions is what helps with the baby's brain development during this age group. Also thinking about the phonological awareness and the phoneme awareness and different benefits that come from parentees, for example, or directly talking to infants and toddlers in this age group. All of this helps to prepare for a very deep reading brain. The next slide, please. All right, and then just thinking about the Cox Campus, as we talked a little bit about before, the Cox Campus offers a wide array of information and knowledge around the deep reading brain construction. So specifically today, I know we're focusing on infants and toddlers. So on the screen, you see a few courses that we have created that are also around the information you're learning today, and some other great information as it relates to auditory recognition and language comprehension. And it's also a great place to see how what you're doing as an infant and toddler teacher is going to connect in the next stage in preschool, pre-K, and all the way up to kindergarten to 3rd grade. So I hope you enjoy.
Thank you so much, Alicia. So on the next slide, we're going to talk a little bit more about what's happening with brain development during this stage of development. So as many of you might already know, 80 to 85% of brain growth occurs during the first 3 years of life. That's crazy, right? So babies are born with about 100 billion brain cells or neurons. Now, early childhood, especially that first 1,000 days of life, it's a critical period for brain development because this is where the foundation for all later learning is being established. So these neurons need to talk to one another. They need to coordinate to support learning. And this is all happening very rapidly. So the formations of these synapses are based off the experiences that the child is having. The little baby is experiencing in the world around them, just as Alicia mentioned. And now the unfortunate part is that without this strong foundation, the higher brain circuitry develops once a child starts school cannot be supported and thus doesn't function optimally. And you know what? As it turns out, building those connections are far easier than it sounds. We now know through research that conversations with babies is the best way families, caregivers, and other responsive adults can help build a baby's brain and prepare them for all future learning, including reading. So you can see here on this image how those synapses are getting stronger and stronger and stronger as that child grows. So what we really want to see is those experiences that help support this occurring for all children. Next slide, please. So you might be wondering what these conversations might look like. And today we're going to build on that, your already understanding of it by discussing something called serve and return. And these serve and return interactions may have you thinking about a certain sport. Anybody ever play tennis out there? I know I have. I wasn't great at it, but I get it, right? So if you're thinking about a serve, like a tennis player serving, and then the other player returning the ball, that's exactly what we're going to talk around. So let's play this video to give you a little bit more of a visual, and then we're going to break out into some groups and have a deeper conversation around it.
We're now learning about the many ways in which solid brain foundations are built and maintained in a developing child. One important way is through what brain experts call serve and return interactions. Imagine a tennis match between a caregiver and a child. But instead of hitting a ball back and forth across a net, various forms of communication pass between the two. From eye contact to touch, from singing to simple games like peekaboo.
The child serves or indicates they're interested in something. The adult who's attentive to that child returns that interest, and that ramps up the child's enthusiasm, and they do the activity again. So when they're learning to read, the child shows an interest in a book. The adult sees that and reads to them. The child gets all excited and tries reading back. And then the child's using those circuits that underlie reading over and over again, driven by the enthusiasm of the interaction with the attentive adult.
The response and attention a child receives from an adult when they are practicing certain social, emotional, and physical skills goes a long way to sparking that child's own excitement with learning and repeating certain actions.
The child gets positive feedback from the adult and they try harder, so they're using that circuit again and again. That circuit will really be sturdy and will form a sturdy architecture for later life function.
In order to build these sturdy circuits in a developing brain, it's crucial for caregivers to actively engage with the child. Prolonged passive activities, such as leaving the child alone in front of a television or merely holding the child without eye contact, will not build solid brain architecture.
Without serve and return attentive adult interactions, the child's much less likely to undertake a lot of these activities, and their brain won't develop as well.
Serve and return interactions, repeated throughout a young person's developing years, are the bricks that build a healthy foundation for all future development.
Alrighty. So as you can see in that video, we had an opportunity to see some parents in action doing this serve and return response. And we're going to get a really fun opportunity to go into breakout rooms so all of you can reflect on this together and think about your own experience as a child. So here are some of the questions. I'm going to drop this into the chat as well, so it'll carry with you into your breakout rooms. But first, what relationships stood out to you in your childhood? And then how do you think those relationships influenced your brain development? And then lastly, how might you share the importance of early brain development to parents? And maybe even how would you share the importance of the serve and return? So I want to just check in with my co-host. Is there anything else you'd like to add before we go into breakout rooms?
I love it. There's some amazing resources being dropped in the chat as well. Just wanted to draw the participants' attention to that. And like Christina said, she's also dropped the questions there for us for our breakout room discussion. So thank you.
All right, so we're going to be in break. Thank you so much, Crystal. We're going to be in breakout rooms for probably about 10 minutes. You will be able to reach out to us using the tools on the bottom if you have any questions. And when you do see the prompt on your screen to go into breakout rooms, please click it, because that's the only way you'll be able to join your fellow peers.
All right, welcome back, everyone. Welcome back. Give everybody a few more seconds to get in. I think we might be missing one or two more people.
Absolutely. Look, I don't know about you, but I can't wait to hear some of the dialogue, hear some of the highlights of the breakout room conversations, right?
Agreed, agreed.
Absolutely. Yes, and so if anybody would like to share out around the questions that we proposed, please come off mute. We'd love for one person from each group to just share out something that stood out to them from their conversation around brain development and how, your experience was as a kiddo.
Absolutely. Let's shoot it to room 1 first. Room 1 had some great conversations and participants. Cynthia, Jennifer, Maria, Krista, there's a few people that were in that amazing breakout room. Anybody want to share?
Okay, I will. I think the big main thing or part of our discussion was that our families, growing up, our families may not have been so wealthy, but we weren't so aware of it because of our relationships with our families, that our relationships with our parents, our relationships with our community even had really helped to make us to give us what we needed to follow our path. I think that was our main thing.
Absolutely. It takes a village. We've heard that before, right? And I'm so glad that we can all share in providing great language nutrition. It doesn't have to just come from mom or dad or, a sibling. Can come from everyone in that community and in that environment. So thank you so much for sharing that, Krista. Appreciate it.
Miss Crystal.
Yes.
Hi,
Hey.
I'm Sheila Thompson.
Hey
But I
there.
want to share something with you because I know you just said, you talked about it takes a village, okay? And I was on a webinar not too long ago, and I know we've all heard it takes a village, it takes a village. And one of the things that they encourage us as educators to do now is use that, but put something else with it. Like it takes a village. What type of village? It takes a healthy village to support this language and literacy, because some children have a village, but the village is not doing anything. The village is not helping them to learn to speak and to do, the things that they need to, again, be able and prepared and equipped for school. So she challenged us. And so when you said that, I said, oh, I have to speak out. She challenged us to say, please don't just say it takes a village, but it takes a healthy and a supported village to reach our children today. That's what she wanted us to say. So I apologize for interrupting, but that was just so strong to me last week in that webinar. Okay.
Please interrupt. We appreciate that, Ms. Thompson. And listen, go to your reactions button and let's give some love to Ms. Thompson. That is so very true. It's not just the village, it's the quality of the village and the quality of the interactions that we have in that village that makes a huge difference. Thank you for sharing that. Thank you so very much. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right. And if any other conversations or thoughts bubble up, we want to hear it. In the meantime, I'm going to Zoom room 2. How about it, Christina and Alicia? What do you say?
Let's go for it.
Yeah.
Zoom too.
Yes. Becky, Yana, Audrey, what did you talk about there?
Miss Becky had shared some really great things. I'm not sure if she's able to say it right now, but she shared some great ideas. If you want to share, Miss Becky.
I was just saying, I feel like to me, it's not foreign to speak to my kids when they're in the womb or when they're infants. And so I just feel like it's super important to, be talking to our babies when they're developing, and it makes a huge difference because you'll see some kids who don't have good relationships with their families, and you can see developmentally different ranges in these children. So I just think it's really important that we all keep talking to our babies in the womb and when they come out.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Once again, I'm going to invite you to go to the reactions or the chat and let's give some love to Becky. That is amazing. As she shared, that children can pick up the sounds of language as early as the 3rd trimester. And so if they can pick up the sounds of language that early, then we start early. We want to start using these strategies early and start using great language nutrition from the start. All about the brain science and information that Christina shared with us earlier, and how quickly that brain is developing in the first few years of life. We want to maximize those opportunities. So thank you, Becky. We appreciate you. Any other thoughts or reflections there? All right. If not, we are going to room 3.
So room 3, we had a little bit of connectivity issues. So I think we're moving on to room.
Okay, room 4. We're gonna still show some love to room 3. You tried, and if you want to share now, you have the floor. You have an opportunity to do so. Again, the relationships, what you're thinking about those relationships, how they influenced brain development, things of that nature. We invite you to share. We don't want to leave you out, room 3. We won't do that to you. But in the meantime, room 4, we also welcome your feedback. We want to hear it. We know Ms. Sheila already started us off and challenged us to rethink about that village, the quality of the village. I love that, Ms. Sheila. Thank you. What else do you all want to share room 4? We want to hear from you. Hey, Audrey, go ahead.
I don't think Audrey was in our room. I don't remember.
But I saw her come off of mute. Okay.
Yeah, she was in our room. But we talked about in room 4, I guess, and someone else, I guess I'll just talk a little bit.
Go for it, Ms.
But
Sheila.
we talked about the interaction, because I started off with, and one of the other participants in there, we talked about the relationship and the interaction we had with parents. And I know my family was very great with me and my siblings in talking throughout everything, asking why. We see today in a lot of our children that they don't have the opportunity to ask why. Don't ask that question. It's none of your business. From different ethnic groups, you don't have a say-so or anything when you talk about why. But it's so important for our children to talk about why, because the brain is growing every time they ask a question. And sometimes I tell my educators, you need to ask why. Do not just say, answer why are you doing this, blah, blah, blah. Then I talked about in the classroom, the fun part of it. Being able for the children, like, I know we have to draw our parents in, but sometimes our parents, we don't get to see them. We don't get to hear from them. But we make the classroom so much fun that children go home and draw their own parents in. By, okay, this is what I learned in class. Oh, I have to count so many cars today. Oh, I have to look at these letters. Oh, I see that letter B, blah, 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 blah. So you draw the parents into the communication. They're like, what the heck are they doing in your classroom? Oh, we learning, we driving, we this, we that. So just the different things that I think to get the parents involved, and even for the children to have fun as they're learning, that they know, hey, it's going to grow, that what forever change their life, and for us talking and being in front of people and happy to be and to do all those things, and not ashamed of it, no matter where they are.
Drop some love for Miss Sheila in the chat through our reactions. What great feedback you are sharing. And your passion is exuding through the screen, and I love it, especially now, in this space that we're all navigating through, right, where we're in virtual learning experiences and face-to-face. That passion, those relationships, those conversations that you're speaking of are so important, and we thank you for uplifting that.
Well, I thank you for the Birth to 5, because believe it or not, I implement this into my program at Northern University. So I implement, they have to do this, and I teach the infant and toddler class. So I implement they have to get create their own account. That's a grade. And I make it so hard that if they don't do it, they're not going to pass the class, because I want them to see what's available for them and all the things that you are doing to better us as educators. So I teach the Birth to 5 program. So this is awesome. I couldn't wait to get on. I just registered about 30 minutes ago. What, about an hour? I said, oh no, I'm on. Okay, my pajamas on, so I can't show my face. But anyway, I'm on, okay?
Love it, Miss Sheila. We love it. We love it. We love it. Thank you.
Thank
and
you.
I see Cynthia James also dropped in the chat an important comment that we can uplift it. She was just saying that the trouble is, you know, again, bridging that gap, right, between learning at school and learning at home. And that is a challenge, but we can do it. We can do it. And we're hoping that through our session today and through the sessions that are coming up and all of the resources on Cox Campus, that we will find ways and talk about ways, even in the community chats, and share about that in chats about how we can bridge that gap. So thank you, Cynthia, for uplifting a very important concern that is real. And we love to hear from you about that. Thank you. Wow, 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 Christina and Alicia. Great conversations, great dialogue.
Loved it, loved it. Thank you all for sharing so much. We really appreciate it.
Absolutely, absolutely. And so if there are no other reflections, I'm just reviewing the questions really quickly. Did anybody want to share even one piece about how do you think that relationships influenced your brain development? Did anybody share about that or want to add a point there? I'm just uplifting that for a sec. Okay, I thought I heard someone come off of mute, but those relationships, again, they matter. Christina talked to us earlier about how the brain is developing and how a key part of that is the experiences that happen from day to day. So experiences, responsive relationships, all of those things matter. So we'll jump into more of that as we go along with our session. Are we ready to move forward, ladies?
Yes. Absolutely. And I think Ms. Kinslow posted in the group, she said, children develop a sense of security and safety. And that is so true. I definitely wanted to look at that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you for sharing. Again, we're showing love with our reactions and comments in the chat with that as well. All right. And so let's dive into that a little bit. We kind of teeter about the language nutrition, but let's talk about what it's all about. Okay. And so just as healthy food nourishes a baby's body, language nutrition nourishes the baby's brain. It's about the quality and quantity of nourishing language that is critical for brain development. And guess what, you all? Research supports it too. It's actually saying that the single strongest predictor of academic success is all about language nutrition, all about the things that we were just sharing about. And so when we talk about language nutrition, it is the use of language that is rich in the following areas. And I'll kind of break them down a little bit. It's rich in engagement, right? And engagement is just about language that attracts and involves attention, right? It is rich in quality, like we said on the screen, right? The language that contains higher and loving levels of vocabulary. It's also about quantity, which is language that contains higher amounts of vocabulary. Context, language that clarifies the meaning. And then also that language nutrition nourishes the child's not only brain development, but their social skills and linguistics. And so it's through those repeated interactions that we have, through those responsive interactions that we have, and we'll talk about that in a moment. And when we also introduce those new words, that's when those lasting bonds are formed with caregivers. That's when that brain development really happens. And so this is what sets the foundation, if you will, or it's the basis for language nutrition. And we're excited about that. So let's talk about some ways on the next slide that we can get more language nutrition in. These are the ways that we can do it. And these are simple ways here. Guess what, you all? You're probably already doing a lot of this and didn't even know that by these simple acts, you are helping to nourish the child's brain. Talking, reading, singing, and playing. So talk, read, sing, play. Talk, read, sing, play. Okay, I'm getting excited. I'll start a little dance and song with it. So let me calm down. But those are simple things that we can do to help engage the child and build their brain. And so what do we mean by that? Talking. We're saying literally using words during our everyday activities, such as bath time, mealtime, when we're changing the diaper, going for a walk, whenever that is, we can use words throughout the child's day. Reading books, and not just reading them in a boring way. We want to read them in a very interactive way. That means we're pointing to the images in the stories and the colors maybe in the stories. We're making the facial expressions. That is so important, right? And we're asking questions as we read. When we sing, we can sing our favorite lullabies, our favorite songs that we remember from childhood as a way to calm the baby, right? That's so very important. And guess what? We need to sing well. You know, it's the baby doesn't care about that. It's about that bond. It's about, again, that language exposure that you're providing as you sing with the baby. And then last but not least, when we play, and that's when we're just engaging that baby every chance we get to create those happy and lifetime bonds. That is so important. And then on the screen, it will pop up for different times of the day that can happen. Guess what? The everyday routines, we said it, right? Like we can do it with everyday routines. As from the time they wake up in the morning to the time they're going to bed at night, you're using those everyday routines to talk, read, and sing and play. And then you're also directing attention. I'm not sure what order these are going to pop up in, so I'm going to go with whatever comes on the screen. You can pop the next one. Okay, narrating action. Now go to that. That's when you're describing what the child and others are doing around them, right? And so you become like a sportscaster. You're calling the plays. You're talking about what you're doing every step of the way. So that's that. The next one that popped up is telling stories, and we just talked about that, right? Consider using books, family stories, photo albums, magazines, you name it. We can tell those stories. That's another great way to do it. The next one that pops up is asking open-ended questions, right? Those are questions that allow for the use of more words, right? Like it opens up the conversation, if you will. An example of a closed-ended question may be, so Christina, are you having a good day? What are you more than likely going to say to that?
Yeah.
Right. That's boring. But if I open it up a little bit more and ask an open-ended question or use an open-ended statement, then it allows for the use of more words. So if I say, Christina, tell me about your day, then she may give me way more. She may share a little bit more, use more words with that. So we definitely want to ask questions. That is very important. We want to model that for young children. Another way is singing the songs. I talked about that a moment ago. We don't have to know how to sing. They don't care. We just want to make sure that we are engaging them in a playful and fun way. So last but certainly not least, directing attention to to items and actions in the child's environment. So these are all just great ways to get in more and more language nutrition. I think we can do it. What do you all say? So with that in mind, that creates what we call, and I said we would go deeper into this, responsive interactions. And when we say responsive interactions, that just means the way that we're positively responding to the needs of children, the way that we're positively interacting with children, right? Those opportunities, all of the demonstrations that I just went over on the last slide, they should be loving. It should be joyful, engaging, playful. And when we are having those types of interactions, guess what? It sets the foundation for a trusting, nurturing relationship, and it supports all future learning. That's what we mean by having responsive interactions. That's key. That's critical. That is key. And think about it. Just as we engage in responsive and reciprocal interactions with our peers, coworkers, like you all said before, family members, neighbors, we want to engage in a responsive and a reciprocal way, or have responsive and reciprocal interactions with our young children as well. And so with that, on the next slide, we have a video that we want to share with you, right? And so as you are watching, tune in, because we will have an opportunity after this for you to provide a little bit of feedback in a different way, provide your feedback about what you noticed from the video. So let's watch it really quickly, and we'll pick it up after this.
Babies this young are extremely responsive to the emotions and the reactivity and the social interaction that they get from the world around them. This is something that we started studying 34 years ago, when people didn't think that infants could engage in social interaction. In the still face experiment, what the mother did was she sits down and she's playing with her baby, who's about a year of age.
I'm like a girl. Oh.
And she gives a greeting to the baby gives a greeting back to her.
Yeah.
This baby starts pointing at different places in the world, and the mother's trying to engage her and play with her. They're working to coordinate their emotions and their intentions, what they want to do in the world. And that's really what the baby is used to. And then we ask the mother to not respond to the baby. The baby very quickly picks up on this, and then she uses all of her abilities to try and get the mother back. She smiles at the mother. She points because she's used to the mother looking where she points. The baby puts both hands up in front of her and says, "What's happening here?" She makes that screechy sound at the mother, like, come on, why aren't we doing this? Even in this 2 minutes, when they don't get the normal reaction, they react with negative emotions, they turn away, they feel the stress of it, they actually may lose control of their posture because of the stress that they're experiencing.
I'm here. Yes. Oh, girl.
It's a little like the good, the bad, and the ugly. The good is that normal stuff that goes on, that we all do with our kids. The bad is when something bad happens, but the infant can overcome it. After all, when you stop the still face, the mother and the baby start to play again. The ugly is when you don't give the child any chance to get back to the good. There's no reparation, and they're stuck in that really ugly situation.
Wow, 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 wow. So I shared that we were going to have an opportunity to share what words come to mind when viewing the still face video in connection with what we just shared earlier about relationships, responsiveness, things of that nature. So I think the poll has launched on the screen for you. And so I think this is going to create a word cloud. Christina, hold me accountable to this. I think it will create some sort of word cloud to share your feedback. Oh, there we go. There we go.
And there's two ways that you can join. You can either text to David M at 587. Text that to the number 22333, and then you'll be able to enter that way, or you just click on the link that was put in the chat. So those are two ways you can enter to pop as many words that first came to mind to you when you were watching this video.
And then feel free to share if somebody wants to come off of mute, like we shared. This is very interactive session. We're family. We're all here having a dialogue together. So if you want to share more about your word, we want to hear it. We want to hear it.
You definitely see some great words on the screen. Definitely.
Absolutely. I love what they mentioned on the screen too, how it was an experiment and they had a chance to kind of reconnect. And when I see the traumas and the stress on the screen that is coming up, it makes me think about how that child was used to having those loving experiences with the mom. And so it became a point of tension, right? But they were able to reconnect and kind of carry forward. You know, how often is it times where children may not be experiencing a still face in front of them, but maybe they're trying to get our attention in other ways. And maybe we're not tuning into their needs. We're not being responsive to their needs and what that may create for them if we don't build that foundation, like we said, right, of loving, trusting, nurturing relationships where they know that it will, things will come back to a norm, if you will, right?
Right. And I think even like Miss Sheila said, sorry to cut you off, Crystal, even like Miss Sheila said, I want to say earlier when she was saying, telling a child, no, don't talk right now, or don't ask questions. Like those are all ways that you are invoking that same stress within that child. So while you think you might just telling them to be quiet in the moment and not to share their thoughts or to speak, you're actually shutting them down and you're actually cutting off their language and their opportunity to speak, which could lead to stress, trauma, some of these words that we see populating on the screen. So definitely, like you've been saying, Crystal, we have to really be intentional with how we are relating and communicating with children, regardless of their age.
Absolutely. And there are times when we can just really pause and think about what is a more positive way that I can share the need right now, with that child, or what okay, maybe I am in the middle of something, but maybe I can lovingly say, okay, I see that you want me to see your picture. You're showing me your picture. You want me to see that. Yes, that is beautiful. Give me 1 second. I'll be right back, or whatever the case may be. There are ways that we can acknowledge, right, their attempt to communicate and then still tend to what we need and then re-engage with them. And so sometimes we have to slow down and think about that for a moment. How can I communicate this at that child's level where they can understand that I am here in a trusted source, a trusted, a loving adult in their environment who is responsive to their needs? And we're going to play a little bit of game, a little game with that in just one moment too. Thank you all for sharing. We sincerely appreciate that. And on the next slide, it really highlights some of what we're saying that we need in order to build those responsive and reciprocal relationships. And so here are just the simple ways to promote that, right? So we've already talked earlier about that serve and return, right? That happens. We give them, give opportunities for those interactions. We pause, we return the interaction or the language or the smile or whatever it is in that moment, right? We return that. The serve and return is a key way to promote responsiveness. Another way is just, again, the facial expressions, just the way we can make a face, we can smile, we can model that emotion and respond according to the child's cues, right? Even our tone of voice, we can say the same thing. I could say, not right now. And somebody else can say, not right now. And that tone can mean two different things, right? So we want to be mindful of our tone and use a loving tone of voice, that would communicate appropriately with that child, right? Tuning in, it's paying attention to what the child is doing and responding appropriately So just tuning in, that's another way to just build that responsiveness. Touch, showing a child love with those gentle touches, right? And then gestures, using gestures to communicate concepts and emotions. That's another way. And the interaction should always, and we said this earlier, it should be two-way. It's reciprocal. It's two-way, right? And then I cannot express this enough. It isn't on the screen, I don't think, but home language is key. Remember to support even the home language as we are using great language nutrition and using these prompts here, or thinking about ways that we can promote more responsiveness, right? So remembering that home language. One of the ways that we talked about supporting that responsiveness is through our tone. And so on the next slide, I just want to talk about one way to do that. Guess what? Infants, young children, they crave and need what we call child-directed speech. Maybe you've heard of it as baby talk, motherese, parentese. Though the more current name for it is child-directed speech. And that's the emphasis of the emotion, right? And it helps the infant to understand like that social connect, or that social purpose, if you will, for the interaction. It actually secures memory of that word or phrase, right? So child-directed speech sounds like you love them and you enjoy the child, right? Hi, how are you? It's so good to see you. And so that's just the way to model that. You know, it's the use of real words. I know I mentioned earlier, baby talk is we've heard that before, but the difference between maybe that child-directed speech and baby talk is the use of real words. We aren't saying, we're not using nonsense words. We're using real words. They need to hear that, and maybe that in that higher pitched tone. Again, that's that social hook, right? And they need to hear the sounds of the words. So that's why we're stretching out those words and sounds. But it is the use definitely of the real words. It's emphasis and exaggeration on rhythm. It helps the infant to notice phrases and pauses in the speech stream, and it provides cues for those words and grammar, syntax, and learning. It is a strong emphasis for that. And it helps the infants, like we said, and young children to hear those individual sounds of the words. So that is just another way, again, speaking of that tone and ways that we can build that responsiveness, that's just another way to do it. So we have a video that we're going to try to play here, which models that. Let's see if we can get that video up. It'll take one moment. And again, we invite you to share your reflections in the chat. I think the video is ready. Let's see what happens.
You want to do the cowboy? What does it say? Moo. Get it, girl. You can get it. Get it, get it. Get it, get it. Are you spinning?
Say I'm mooing.
Not polite. That's not polite. That. Get your book. Can you read it? You want me to help you? Want me to help you? Uh-oh. Ain't that it? Get your book. Can you say moo, moo, 10? You gonna read it to us? Come on, Matthew. She wanna be the teacher. We ready?
She said,
we're ready. Look, we sitting. We ready. Yeah, we ready.
What's the cow say? Cow say moo?
You gonna dance for us? I think she's giving us a show.
Can you say moo?
She's trying to get our attention, but we ready. Don't eat it. It doesn't taste good. Let's read it. Open it up. Show us the pictures.
Oh.
I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. It just gives examples of the way in which we can use again that child-directed speech, the higher pitch, the just really having fun with it. And I saw the excitement in the child just to hear her caregiver responding to her in that way. But you know what? Someone mentioned earlier, and I love it, how we need to bridge that gap between like home and school, right? This is a way in a school environment, a simple way. It wasn't much to make that interaction there, but this is an interaction at home too. We want you to see this video really quickly, and maybe many of you all have seen it before, but it's just another interaction of responsiveness that we really want to highlight. So let's see a little bit of that.
We need to work on that, right? Yes, okay. Did you understand it though? No. Okay. All right. Huh? Oh, not this one. This is the grand finale of it. Yeah, that's the last one. That's what I was wondering. I don't know what they're gonna do next season because they did some stuff this time. Exactly what I was thinking. Oh yeah.
We can stop it there. That's enough. You know what I'm saying? Thank you. We can watch that video all day. Again, it's just another interaction that between father and son, and the back and forth, the reciprocal back and forth relationship there, serve and return, as Christina led us through earlier. And so we want to show how it's simple but powerful interactions that we can have that sets the tone for those responsive relationships. And so with that as well, we want to play a little game. We're going to go through this really quickly, but it's just a way to help us to know how children are communicating with us. If we are going to remain responsive to their needs, we have to know how they are communicating with us at the different stages and phases that they're in. So for the sake of this game, I hope you all are ready. For the sake of this game, infant is, we already know, 0 to 12 months. Young toddler, 12 to 24 months. So it's like 1-2, right? 1-2-year-old. Older toddlers, 24 to 36 months. 2 to 3, and then preschoolers 3 and up, right? And so what you will see is an indicator that comes on the screen that would suggest the way in which a child is communicating. Here's what we need from you. Get your fingers ready, okay? We need for you to drop in the chat which age group, again, infant, young toddler, older toddler, or preschooler, do you feel like this particular indicator, which age group this particular indicator matches with, okay? Because again, we know that the children are communicating, they communicate differently in more complex ways as they get older, and we want to ensure that we are tuned into that. So here we go. Are you all ready? Get your fingers ready. Here we go. Here's the first indicator. Crying differently for different needs. So let's go. Is this infant, young toddler, older toddler, preschooler? Which one will you say?
We see a lot of infant, a lot of infant.
I see it. I see it in the chat. Infant. Okay. Drum roll. Let's see what the answer is. Infant. Y'all are amazing. Okay, so let's look at some other ways in which they're communicating with us. Yes, they're making the pleasurable sounds. They're smiling when they see you. They're babbling and using single words. These are all different ways, and I'm sure more, right? Ways in which they are communicating with us. So, given what we just said about responsiveness, about simple ways that we could use child-directed speech and things about it. I'm probably giving away the answer. Oops. What are some ways that we can meet their needs, that we can remain responsive with the infants? Drop it in the chat, come off of mute. What are some ways that we're responsive? Oh, mirror their actions. Come on, talk back. Yes. Yes. I love it. Any other thoughts or reflections?
Talk back again.
Yes, notice what they're doing. Absolutely. We said that, right? It's tuning in.
And
notice what they're
respond.
doing and respond. Absolutely. Absolutely. Talking back. I see it. I see it. You all are amazing. Having the conversation. Okay. For the sake of time, because I could do this all day. Let's go to the next one. Eye contact. That was a good one. Thank you, Maria. Okay. Here we go. Using a lot of sentences that have 4 or more words. Drop it in the chat. Come on. Uh-oh. We have some quick people with their hands.
All right, we're ready. Y'all ready?
What else? Any more guesses? Preschool.
Lots of preschool. Lots of
preschool. Okay. Here we go. Let's see the answer. Preschool. Oh, the crowd goes wild. Here's some other ways that that a preschooler is communicating with us. They are talking about activities at school or at a friend's house. They're usually talking more easily without repeating syllables or words, right? And like we said, using a lot of sentences that have 4 or more words. So once again, I want to ask the question, if we know this to be true about our preschooler, this is the main way, not the only ways, but the main ways that they're communicating with us. How is it that we're going to be responsive with the preschooler? What should we do? You can come off of mute or share in the chat. Yes, respond with more interesting words and more complex sentences. Absolutely. Thank you, Krista. Ask open-ended questions. There it is again. Yes, show interest in their actions. Yes, reading every day. Why questions? I'm thinking Ms. Sheila is saying, right? Emotional connection, broader vocabulary. You all are amazing.
Y'all are definitely on it.
Oh my gosh.
Great educators.
Yes, absolutely. Loving gestures. Yes, absolutely. Okay, let's go to the next one. Putting 2 words together. There's the examples on the screen. Yes, toddler, early toddler, young toddler, older toddler, young toddler. I see it, toddler. And the answer is young toddlers. And let's look at the other ways in which they're communicating. Saying more words every month. And again, where they're getting those words from. You talked about it. Sheila told you, that environment, the quality of it, it matters, right? Yes. They're absolutely like sponges soaking it all up, right? And they're saying back the words that they've been exposed to, using some 1 to 2 word questions, using many different consonant sounds at the beginning of words. Absolutely. So if they're doing that, how can we become more responsive towards the needs of the young toddler? What is it that we need to do? Keep the interactions up. Yep, Maria. Yes, thank you.
Absolutely.
That is so key. Keep it up. And I'm just going to guess that everybody agrees with you, Maria. Modeling, right? Talking with them and their peers around them. Absolutely. Thank you for dropping. Serve and return. Absolutely. You all are on it. Come on, let's see another one. What's the next one? Giving it a real name. That's a good one, Maria. Thank you. Okay. Often asking for or directing attention to objects by naming them. Which age group is this? I see it too. I see, yes, reading, conversations, talking with friends. Absolutely. So often asking for or directing attention to objects by naming them. Which age group? What do you say? Y'all are on it. Let's see. Toddlers again. Toddlers. Older. Okay. We have a mix here. Let's see.
Older 3.
Yeah. Preschoolers again. Oh,
y'all are on it.
We have a mixture here. All right, let's see the answer. Older toddlers. Yes, absolutely. Again, this is just foundation. It may vary depending on the child, right? But it's just giving us an idea. We need to be mindful of how they are mainly communicating with us so that we can be responsive towards their needs. Having a word for almost everything. Using 2 to 3 words to talk about or ask for things. And so you all have already been sharing in the chat. If it's anything new that you all feel like we could do here to remain responsive with this older toddler, then let us know in the chat. but you all have said a lot. Just continuing those interactions, the gestures, the facial expressions, the reading, the conversations. Anything new that pops up in your brain? Take turns and wait for them. Yep. We saw that's what I loved about that last video that we saw. There was turn taking there. I love it. All right, what's the next screen? Let's see it. We could just list them up. Yep, this is just for your reference as well. This is how our pre-K children are communicating with us, using those sentences that gives lots of details, right? Communicating easily with other children and adults, using the same grammar as the rest of the family, and telling stories that stay on topic. Okay, so now that we know, let's be mindful of how we can remain responsive with our children. Thank you all for participating in that activity. You did a great job.
Yes, excellent job.
I'm dropping you reactions on screen for that. Thank you.
Yes, excellent job. So as we go on to the next slide, I definitely want to hear from you all. And in the chat, what does it mean to be a conversational partner? And definitely feel free to come off mute or put it in the chat, but what does it mean to be a conversational partner with a child? Let's see, we'll get in this chat and see if we see anything. What does it mean to be a conversational partner? Thinking about just even conversations that you might have with, you know, a person that is an adult. Thinking about that, but bringing it back to infants and toddlers. What does that mean to be a conversational partner? A bridge to relationships. Absolutely. Respect, supporting and encouraging, back and forth interactions. All of those are so, so true. Thank you all for sharing. Definitely. Thank you all for sharing. Simply put, to be a conversational partner means engaging in a meaningful conversation with a child. And so when we think about with the child, we're not talking to the child, we're not talking at the child, but you're talking with the child. You're engaging them as a partner and, you know, making sure that it's a back and forth conversation, like we've been saying all day, you know, that serve and return. And even when we're talking to infants or children that are not able to vocalize what they're saying right now, we're still engaging in meaningful conversations. Every time we see them move their hands or babble or move their feet, that's their way of communicating with us. So by us recognizing what we see, you know, that's our way of communicating with the infant or the young child. Even thinking about when can we be a conversational partner? I know y'all already know this, but when we can be a conversational partner, any time of the day, any time of the day. We talked a little bit about it earlier. During bath time, at the grocery store, on the way home, on the way to school, at the park, at nighttime, always engaging your child in conversation and meaningful conversations from the very beginning, from birth. You know, when they come out the womb, still engaging in those conversations with those children, getting that serve and return, that back and forth. That is what builds conversation within children. That's what helps to build that language and literacy. Thank you for that. So going into our next slide, we're going to just break it down a little bit by age and say, you know, serve and return, we've learned about that, but what does that look like for an infant, for a toddler, and for a preschooler? So when you're thinking about an infant, again, we're really focusing on their gestures. Of course, they're not able to vocalize what they want to say, but when they are kicking their feet, blinking, cooing, smiling, that's their way of engaging in conversations with us. So some different ways you can do that is through singing songs and playing games, by responding to a child's movements or facial expressions, and by making eye contact and facial expressions to convey a message. When thinking about a toddler, you want to continue to help and expand their communication attempts. As they say, more juice. You might want to come back and say, juice? Oh, I think you're asking for more juice. Here, let me help you pour a glass. Those are all ways that you can engage in that serve and return. And you're also modeling, as someone said earlier, you're modeling how to have those conversations. Again, you're asking those open-ended questions and you're modeling those responses. So not just those yes and no questions, but really asking them why questions and modeling for them how you ask very good questions. And then even thinking about preschoolers, continuing to ask those why questions, to really tune into the things that interest them, to really tap into their world, get on their level, to play pretend. All of those things really help with the serve and return, especially as they grow from infancy all the way to age 5. And so definitely keep those things in mind when you're working with your student, your children in your classroom. Definitely engaging in those different serve and return interactions to really help build language and literacy.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Alicia. Now, as we continue this conversation, we have a quick poll for all of you on Zoom. So you'll be prompted by a quick survey. So feel free to go ahead and answer it. And then we'll talk a little bit more about how many of these back and forth interactions or these serve and return interactions should you be looking at to have throughout your day. So similar to at the beginning of the presentation, just click whatever number you think really speaks to you as an educator when you're having these back and forth interactions with children. Is it one time back and forth? Is it twice maybe? Maybe shoot for 3. All right, 4, 5, maybe, I don't know. You guys are busy in the day. What does this look like? Okay, awesome. Awesome. It looks like we've gotten everybody's responses, which is amazing. I'm seeing some 2s, some 4s, and 5s or more, which is amazing because on the next slide, you will see that you really want to be striving for 5. 5 back and forth exchanges during a specific exchange. So this is not just 5 in a day. This is 5 within an interaction. And we know that as educators, you have a lot going on your plate, and this can be really hard. You might also have other children joining your experience that may not disturb, but just, kind of switch gears a little bit in these interactions. So you kind of have to be creative. But it's really these 5 back and forths that are really strengthening those experiences, strengthening those synapses so that they are able to build those strong foundations for learning across the board, but specifically within language and literacy. Now, you will, and you probably already notice, and as Alicia pointed out, these exchanges look different depending on where that child is developmentally. So you may be asking those open-ended questions with a preschooler or pre-K. For an infant, you may be doing facial expressions and gestures mixed into language. So keep that in mind. This is another great thing to bring to your families. It's a simple rule of thumb, strive for 5. If they start to have a conversation with their child, how can you keep that going for 5 back and forth exchanges? Awesome. All right, so we're gonna go on to the next slide. And we're going to talk a little bit about tuning in. So this was also lifted up previously in the presentation. So I'm going to talk around it very quickly. Sometimes tuning in can be tricky in terms of seeing what the child's doing. So let's just say you notice a child interacting with a book, but then you're like, well, how do I bring myself into this moment with this child? So we have a few sentence starters that we'd like to recommend. So for example, I'm thinking you're really enjoying that book, or I see you looking at the cover of that book, or even, oh, I noticed there's a cow on the front of that book. And then you could type in like, I wonder what the cow is doing. So these are all ways that you can kind of keep that conversation going. And what we sometimes like to do is pop those in places that it's easy for teachers to see. So it's a good reminder of like, how can I get to a conversation with this particular child? What are some ways to start that off? And so we do have a few videos on the next 2 slides And I think we may only have time to show you quickly one of them. So we're going to flip to the second one, but we'll make sure to drop the link in the chat because they're both fabulous. So one is a teacher tuning into an infant, and the second one is a teacher tuning into an older toddler. So we're going to play just a small clip at this, and we just want to know, what do you notice this teacher doing in terms of responsive interaction? So whenever you're ready, go ahead and play it.
Were you sad? Why were you sad? Can you explain to me why you were sad? Could it be because you didn't get a turn to use the microphone? So tell me that so I can understand. Okay, all right. But next time I need you to calm your body because I don't understand when you're not using your words, okay? All right, so would you like to see the microphone? Okay, would you like you to use the microphone and you can sing it to me in my ear? Okay, would that make you feel better? Okay, let's stand up. Can you breathe in through your nose and out through your mouth? Breathe in through your nose and out through your mouth. Calm your body. You ready? Okay, can I see a smile? Yay, big smile. Okay, come on.
All right, and you know, with toddlers especially, we're figuring out all these emotions and they can kind of sometimes get a little sticky. So what did you notice this teacher doing? You can either go ahead and pop it in the chat or come off mute. We'd love to hear what you noticed. I see eye level provided. Yes, that's so important, getting down on the child's level. Providing the child words to express the feelings, right? They don't know what this feeling is. They just feel it and they need identification words. And a great interaction instead of just telling the child, use your words, right? It's explaining what words does the child use to express what they needed in that specific moment. Because if the child knew what words to use, they'd probably use them. Yeah, noticing their feelings, giving eye contact, even putting that arm around the back. You know, sometimes those feelings are so big, having a caring adult being there to kind of control, like bring that in and not make it feel explosive is super important. So being responsive again with your touch, your gestures, your facial expressions, even with kiddos who have words. Yeah.
She not only said to use her words, but also why.
Exactly. Again, that why, that open-ended questions. She also tried to not make assumptions, right? She was this why you were feeling this way, right? Not just identifying, saying, oh, I know why you were feeling this way, but confirmation. So yeah, why is so important. Thank you so much for lifting that, Miss Maria.
Also, she was telling the child that she didn't understand. So she has to try to like coach her into explaining it.
Exactly. Because do we ever really understand what a child's feeling, right? That's their own person. That's their own body. We don't know what that really means. The only way we know is by either, if a child who has language, offering them opportunities to share that out, or for a child who doesn't have language, like, I'm wondering if you're feeling sad. It looks like you're feeling sad. So giving them some labels, but not necessarily saying you are sad. Those are some awesome things to lift up. Thank you so much for that. Anybody else go out and seeing if there's anything else in the chat?
And she was
observation.
Pushy. I didn't see her being pushy with the child. You know, sometimes teachers don't have that patience, and I saw that patience with this teacher, with the child, you know, listening and then reacting, and, you know, again, go back to not really understanding until now, serve and return. I need to listen. Now I can react, you know.
Yes, shout out. Absolutely. That patience, taking the time. We know the day gets crazy. It's just, there's 101 things happening, but these key moments, this slowing down, taking time to breathe with the child. Let's work through this together. Having that serve and return back and forth, not like, okay, you're right. Let's go. Let's keep going. The child's not going to gain anything from that. And we know that these social emotional skills that we can be teaching in the serve and return experiences, those languages will only serve the child as a future learner when they're able to express themselves, when they're learning harder concepts, but can say, you know what, I'm feeling frustrated because this is hard for me. And that is huge. I know as an adult, I have felt that way where I can't find the words. And sometimes it's helpful to talk to a friend to find those words. And as educators, we all know that we serve those roles for the children, especially when they're this young. Oh my goodness, you guys are so fabulous. And there's so many great comments and I want us to talk more, but we are short in time. So I'm going to turn it over to my teammates so that we can wrap this up for you all.
Absolutely. Like you said, Christina, we are short on time, not short on content, but we are short on time today. So let's jump to slide 40. If you have not had an opportunity to sign up with Cox Campus, we absolutely encourage you to do that, because guess what? We can continue the conversation in the communities, right? We can look at various courses and really just dive in and explore this content a little bit more, and it's absolutely free and always accessible for you. Again, the site is coxcampus.org. We appreciate you for joining in today. On the next slide, it just is a reminder of the sessions that are coming up in our summer series. The 18th, Meaningful Conversations. The 25th, Supporting Dual Language Learners. If you are also interested in bringing free in-person professional learning to your school, district, or center, the Cox Foundation has provided additional funding to support free in-person or virtual learning to any organization. Did you all hear that? Any organization, institution, or agency in Arizona, Colorado, Maryland, or North Carolina that works with adults interacting with young age children, birth through 9. So you want to email, and we'll drop this in the chat, Jean Connor at jconnor@foundationsinc.org to schedule your free professional learning. That is awesome. And then again, as we close it out today, we want to remind you, we're going to see you on Wednesday. We're just going to look forward to that and claim it already that you'll be there with us, so that we can participate together and learn a little bit more. We definitely appreciate you for being here. And then we want to encourage you to return to Cox Campus as well to join the year-long journey that is available to you as well. That's outlined on that next slide. And we just say thank you. Thank you so much for being here. Let's continue the conversation next week.
We enjoyed it. Thank you all so much.
Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, everybody.
Bye-bye.